dressed and stuff.
I know I gotta get ready and all that good stuff. And,
Pen over there.
yes, it is, beautiful one.
Thank you, babe. Okay. Yeah. Tell Jeremiah he better wash them washcloths and towels in the other bathroom.
Yeah.
What? I mean, I was just looking at you walk away with your sexy self.
I was just gazing into your beauty, that's all.
All right, beautiful people. Happy Wednesday. Shayla, hey, girl. Hey. Tiffany said, hey, James.
Hey, girl.
Yeah, it is Wednesday, November the 10th, 2021, day 299 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 967. Guys, we're going to read Psalm chapter 88 through 90. Then we're going to pick up where we left off at in Shakespeare's Secret Messiah, and we start in chapter 7, Romeo and Juliet. Y'all remember it? Y'all get a chance to go and rewatch at least one of the versions? I sure hope so. Unless you remember it all, then then you don't really have to. But anyway, let's go ahead and do the Shema, which is found. Hold on, let me do this first, so I can still see y'all. Okay. Yeah, the Shema is found in Deuteronomy Chapter 6, starting at verse 3. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all, we'll pull this up. Boom. Oh, let's leave that there. Okay. Okay, y'all. Psalms 88. I'm sorry. It changed my versions every now and again. I got to flip it back to the one I want. Yahuwah is one. Yes, thank you. May the spirit of Yahuwah bless and guide you as we become one with his spirit. Yes, and amen. Mom, shalom, shalom. Okay, Psalm 88 is a song, a psalm of the sons of Korah for the director of music, according to Mahalath Leanoth, a maskil of Heman the Israelite. Yah, you are the God who saves me. Day and night I cry out to you. May my prayer come before you. Turn your ear to my cry. I am overwhelmed with troubles, and my life draws near to death. I am counted among those who go down to the pit. I am like one without strength. I am set apart with the dead, like the slain who lie in the grave, whom you remember no more, who are cut off from your care. You have put me in the lowest pit, In the darkest depths, your wrath lies heavily on me. You have overwhelmed me with all your waves. You have taken from me my closest friends and have made me repulsive to them. I am confined and cannot escape. My eyes are dim with grief. I call to you, Yah, every day. I spread out my hands to you. Do you show your wonders to the dead? Do their spirits rise up and praise you? Is your love declared in the grave, your faithfulness in destruction? Are your wonders known in the place of darkness, or your righteous deeds in the land of oblivion? But I cry to you for help, Yah. In the morning, my prayer comes before you. Why, Yah, do you reject me and hide your face from me? From my youth, I have suffered and been close to death. I have borne your terrors and am in despair. Your wrath has swept over me. Your terrors have destroyed me. All day long they surround me like a flood. They have completely engulfed me. You have taken from me friend and neighbor. Darkness is my closest friend. Oh, no, I don't know that I want to use that for a title. Darkness ain't my closest friend. Wait a minute, why is this? Did this not change? Hold on, y'all. Why does keep switching back to the NIV? Okay. Josiah, Shalom, Grand Rising, Auntie Melinda Brown, Grand Rising. Psalm 89, a psalm of Ethan the Ezrahite. I will sing of Yahuwah's unfailing love forever. Young and old will hear of your faithfulness. Your unfailing love will last forever. Your faithfulness is as enduring as the heavens. Yahuwah said, I have made a covenant with David, my chosen servant. I have sworn this oath to him. I will establish your descendants as kings forever. They will sit on your throne from now until eternity. That's something to think about, y'all. Like, not to, well, it's not getting off topic, but a lot of times when people read, they kind of misunderstand, and for some reason they think King David is coming back from the grave. When Yahuwah says David, my servant David, or anything of the sort, he is referring to King David, but not necessarily King David, because King David is in the grave, but he's talking to his lineage, right? Okay, this is like the same principle almost as his son, right? His son, he said, my son is Israel, right? That's Yahuwah said it from beginning to the end of the Old Testament that Israel was his son, not referring to one, but to all the descendants of Israel as a whole. He may just call one name, um, but he's referring to us all, right? Okay. So just like kind of like my family, like say if you was to call us, hey Murphy, what's up? We'd probably all look at you, okay, which Murphy from the clan of the Murphys or the tribe of the Murphys? You want Big Murph? You want Mrs. Murph? You want young Murph? Do you want one of the mini Murphs? Right? Same thing. Okay. Yahuwah said, I have made a covenant with David, my chosen servant. I have sworn this oath to him. I will establish your descendants as kings forever. I will establish your descendants, with the S, as kings forever. They will sit on your throne from now until eternity. All heaven will praise your great wonders, Yah. Myriads of angels will praise you for your faithfulness. For who in all of heaven can compare to Yahuwah? What mightiest angel is anything like Yahuwah? The highest angelic powers stand in awe of Yah. He is far more awesome than all who surround his throne. O Yah, God of heaven's armies, where is there anyone as mighty as you, O Yah? You are entirely faithful. Divine blessings. You rule the oceans. You subdue their storm tossed waves. You crushed the great sea monster. You scattered your enemies with your mighty arm. The heavens are yours, and the earth is yours. Everything in the world is yours. You created it all. You created north and south. Mount Tabor and Mount Hermon praise your name. Powerful is your arm. Strong is your hand. Your right hand is lifted high in glorious strength. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Unfailing love and truth walk before you as attendants. Happy are those who hear the joyful call to worship, for they will walk in the light of your presence, Yah. They rejoice all day long in your wonderful reputation. They exalt in your righteousness. You are their glorious strength. It pleases you to make us strong. Yes, our protection comes from Yahuwah, and He, the Holy One of Israel, has given us our King. Long ago, you spoke in a vision to your faithful people. You said, I have raised up a warrior. I have selected him from the common people to be king. I have found my servant David. I have anointed him with my holy oil. I will steady him with my hand. With my powerful arm, I will make him strong. His enemies will not defeat him, nor will the wicked overpower him. I will beat down his adversaries before him and destroy those who hate him. My faithfulness and unfailing love will be with him, and by my authority he will grow in power. I will extend his rule over the sea, his dominion over the rivers, and he will call out to me, You are my Father, my God, and the rock of my salvation. I will make him my firstborn son, the mightiest kings on the earth. I will love him and be kind to him forever. My covenant with him will never end. I will preserve an heir for him. His throne will be as endless as the days of heaven. But if his descendants forsake my instructions and fail to obey my regulations, if they do not obey my decrees and fail to keep my commands, then I will punish their sin with a rod and their disobedience with beating. But I will never stop loving him, nor fail to keep my promise to him. No, I will not break my covenant. I will not take back a single word I said. I have sworn an oath to David, and in my holiness I cannot lie. His dynasty will go on forever. His kingdom will endure as the sun. It will be as eternal as the moon, my faithful witness in the sky. But now you have rejected him and cast him off. You are angry with your anointed king. You have renounced your covenant with him and have thrown his crown in the dust. You have broken down the walls protecting him and ruined every fort defending him. Everyone who comes along has robbed him, and he has become a joke to his neighbors. You have strengthened his enemies and made them all rejoice. You have made his sword useless and refused to help him in battle. You have ended his splendor and overturned his throne. You have made him old before his time and publicly disgraced him. Oh, Yah, how long will this go on? Will you hide yourself forever? How long will your anger burn like fire? Remember how short my life is, how empty and futile this human existence. No one can live forever. All will die. No one can escape the power of the grave. Yah, where is your unfailing love? You promised it to David with a faithful pledge. Consider, Yah, how your servants are disgraced. I carry in my heart the insults of so many people. Your enemies have mocked me, O Yah. They mock your anointed king wherever he goes. Praise Yahuwah forever. Amen and amen. Last chapter for today, y'all. Psalm chapter 90. And this actually starts book 4. Book 4 consists of Psalms 90 through 106. And this is a prayer of Moses, a man of Yah. Yah, through all the generations, you have been our home. Before the mountains were born, before you gave birth to the earth and the world, from beginning to end, you are God. You turn people back to dust, saying, Return to dust, you mortals. For you, 1,000 years are as a passing day, as brief as a few night hours. You sweep people away like dreams that disappear. They are like grass that springs up in the morning. In the morning, it blooms and flourishes, but by evening, it is dry and withered. We wither beneath your anger. We are overwhelmed by your fury. You spread out our sins before you, our secret sins, and you see them all. We live lives, excuse me, we live our lives beneath your wrath, ending our years with a groan. 70 years are given to us. Some even live to 80. But even the best years are filled with pain and trouble. Soon they disappear and we fly away. Who can comprehend the power of your anger? Your wrath is as awesome as the fear you deserve. Teach us to realize the brevity of life so that we may grow in wisdom. Oh, Yah, come back to us. How long will you delay? Take pity on your servants. Satisfy us each morning with your unfailing love, so we may sing for joy to the end of our lives. Give us gladness in proportion to our former misery. Replace the evil years with good. Let us, your servants, see you work again. Let our children see your glory. And may Yahuwah, our God, show us his approval and make our efforts successful. Yes, make our efforts successful.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. All right, beautiful people. That was our reading for today. That was Psalms chapter 88 through 90. Let's pick this up where we left off at. Starting chapter 7, Romeo and Juliet. All right, y'all. Okay. Oh, I need a date
So,
for the training that I just finished.
before the letter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Nah.
no, I'm just saying, think about it. So when I get off, I can schedule it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about.
Yeah, we'll schedule that around everything. Yeah. Okay.
Life. Life more abundantly, ain't that what it's about?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that what you're gonna be a part of?
Yes, but on a serious note, I really do need that date, Mr. Moore, because I gotta call and schedule it because they keep emailing me about it.
That's right.
Okay. Having established with Titus Andronicus
Good morning, Kings. Good morning.
the symbolic framework of her work as an extension and counterattack to Titus and his Gospels, Emilia then branched out and read it again. Having established with Titus Andronicus the symbolic framework of her work as an extension and counterattack to Titus and his Gospels, Emilia then branched out. Robert, shalom, shalom. Though she often used Titus as a type for her characters, she never again made such an obvious attack against him. Instead, she often employed subtle subtext and wordplay to make her characters into antitypes of the Flavian villains. She wished to make the point that Gentiles who had ruled through divine right throughout Christendom's history shared Titus's guilt in the use of a false religion to maintain their power. This nobility had not only waged a general persecution of her race and religion since Titus, but had murdered Christopher Marlowe, as I show below, perhaps her lover and certainly her mentor and friend. Typically, the Gentile royalty depicted in the Shakespearean plays are cursed with the same unwitting cannibalism that was inflicted in Titus Andronicus. With her typology, Emilia reversed Titus's cannibalistic curse. With her typology, Emilia reversed Titus's cannibalistic curse on the Jews. Romeo and Juliet is an excellent example of this cannibalistic reversal. As with virtually all of Shakespearean plays, the plot of Romeo and Juliet was derived from prior works. The primary source was Arthur Brooks' Romeo and Juliet, which used essentially the same plot. Brooks' poem was first published in 1562 and reprinted in 1587, 8 years before the first performance of Romeo and Juliet. One of the major changes in the version of the story attributed to Shakespeare was the compression of the story's timeline. In Brooks' version, the events unfold over several months, whereas in the Shakespearean version of the events take place in just over 4 days. Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is one of the most beloved plays in the English language and is seen as beautiful but tragic story of an ill-fated love affair. However, its real meaning is a satire that reverses the gospel's humor regarding the Jews' cannibalism of the Messiah on their Passover. At the conclusion of the play, the Gentile nobility are turned into bread, and this occurs not on the Passover, but near the Christian feast day of the consecrated bread. Romeo and Juliet is one of the Shakespearean plays that take place in the region of Italy from which Emilia Bassano's family immigrated. Shakespeare's focus upon this region has been a mystery, but now can be explained. The Bassanos had lived in the area around Venice for generations, and Emilia would have either traveled to the region or learned enough about it from her family to be able to write about it in such detail. In fact, the volume of plays set in the area were, like the number of Moors in the plays, a clue left by the author as to her identity. By leaving such clues, Emilia was mirroring the clues left by Titus in the Gospels. As with many so as with so many of the plays, Romeo and Juliet harbors enigmas that have resisted all attempts at literary analysis. On the surface, the play seems to represent a senseless tragedy. A hasty but well intentioned plans are continually going horribly awry. Perhaps because the original poem by Brooke mentioned fortune over 40 times, it has been suggested that the mass slaughter in Romeo and Juliet may be due simply to the stars or fortune. As one critic remarked, since there are no obvious evil characters in the play, the end result would consequentially seem to be simply an unfortunate accident. However, such a conclusion is unsatisfying, inadequate, and ultimately incorrect. I might use that as today's title: Unsatisfying, Inadequate, and Ultimately Incorrect. Okay. In fact, one character in the play, the gardener, Friar, Friar Lawrence, can rightly be seen as a villain, at least from the perspective of Gentile nobility. When the play is read in the light of the typology used in Titus Andronicus, if you haven't seen Titus Andronicus, if you go to the description section in YouTube and on Facebook and any of the videos since we've been reading this, you will see at least the most recent. I didn't do it like the first week because I didn't find it till after the first week. So in the last 2 weeks, you will see at the very bottom of the list of movies that you can kind of go watch, kind of catch up on some of this. You will see Titus Andronicus, and it's probably one of these shortest ones. It's just a little bit over an hour. So, all right. When the play is read in the light of the typology used in Titus Andronicus, a veiled subtext becomes clear in which Friar Lawrence deliberately manipulates the characters in order to create the bloody outcome. This subtext uses many of the same core metaphors as the Gospels. For example, a Messiah who is portrayed as a mandrake root and is uprooted. The friar is named Lawrence because the word derives from Laurentum, or one who wears the laurel wreath of victory. His name is appropriate in that Friar Lawrence is certainly the victor at the end of the play. When we first encounter Friar is like a title, like Lord, so it's Friar, right? I think it's Friar. When I was watching it yesterday, I think he said Friar. Yeah, he said Friar. I'm I think it's Friar, y'all. I'm almost certain it's Friar. Okay. When we first encounter Friar Lawrence, he had just returned from a stint of gardening and delivers a monologue concerning the nature of plants. In his speech, he states that plants have two natures, one evil and one good. Quote, baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. End quote. That's Act 2, Scene 3, line 8. On its surface level, the friar's odd speech about two moral essences of plants seems to be yet another incomprehensible Shakespearean puzzle. He is certainly not commenting upon any moral differences between the two central families. the Capulets, and the Montagues, as the playwright goes out of his way to make certain that the reader understands that the families are morally equivalent. For example, the play begins with the ironic statement, two households both alike in dignity, end quote, and that's the prologue, the first prologue. Later in the play, the dying Mercutio builds upon this theme by proclaiming, quote, a plague, oh, both your houses, end quote. That's Act 3, Scene 1, line 91. Understand that the play was written in the genre of Titus Andronicus. In other words, as a reversal of the satirical system in the Gospels, reveals the soliloquy's real meaning. It is a comment upon the two messianic lineages or branches described in the Gospels, the vile one created by the Romans and the real one that the Jews believed would produce their Messiah. The friar is stating that the plant whose nature is evil, obviously the Christian branch, will be destroyed by its own wickedness, will be eaten, and the canker of its hatred. The word cankered also refers both to the Capulets and the Montagues. Quote, cankered with peace to part your cankered hate. End quote. That's Act 1, Scene 1, line 97. The friar's use of the words eaten and eats up foreshadow the fate that awaits the two families who are, quote, alike in dignity, end quote, that they will be eaten. Quote, now this is Friar Lawrence speaking. Okay. The gray eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light and flecked darkness like a drunkard reels from fourth day's path and Titan's fiery wheels. Now ere the sun advance his burning eye, the day to cheer and night's dank dew to dry, I must up fill this osier cage of ours with baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. The earth that's nature's mother is her tomb. What is her burying grave that is her womb? And from her womb, children of divers kind, we, sucking on her natural bosom, find many, for many virtues excellent, none but for some, and yet all different. Oh, mickle is the powerful grace that lies in herbs, plants, stones, and their true qualities. For naught so vile that on the earth doth live but to the earth some special good doth give, nor aught so good but strained from that fair use, revolts from true birth, stumbling on abuse. Virtue itself turns vice, being misapplied, and vice sometimes by action dignified. And Romeo enters. Within the infant rind of this small flower, poison hath residence and medicine power. For this, being smelt with that part, cheers each part, being tasted, slays all senses with the heart. Two such opposed kings encamp them still, in man as well as herbs, grace and rude will. For where the worser is predominant, full soon the canker death eats up that plant. End quote. And that's Act 2, Scene 3, and that's lines 1 through 30. The fact that the friar believes that Christians are cankerous, the fact that the friar believes that Christians are a cankerous messianic root is a key link to the logic of Romeo and Juliet's satirical level. Friar Lawrence's understanding that the Montagues and the Capulets are wicked branches provide the motivation for his orchestrating their destruction, as was the case with Aaron and Titus Andronicus above. The author used the Jewish turncoat priest Josephus as a type for Friar Lawrence, just as Josephus was a Jewish priest who worked for the Romans to help them cause the Jews to cannibalize one another. Friar Lawrence, judging from his statements and actions, is a crypto Jew who has become a Christian priest to cause the Christians to cannibalize themselves. In the above passage, the timing of Romeo's entrance is critical as the point in the speech that he enters designates him as the branch of the wicked Christian root. The author is playing off the root and branch comedy in the Gospels. Romeo is the infant rind with the canker that eats up the plant that the friar is referring to at his entrance. This establishing of Romeo as a plant is important because it links the character to the symbolism used later in the play regarding the mandrake root. Readers of Caesar's Messiah will recall that Josephus used the mandrake root as a metaphor for the messianic root of the Jews that was uprooted by the Romans. In Romeo and Juliet, the playwright uses the same metaphor but in reverse to show that the false messianic mandrake root of the Gentiles, Romeo, has been uprooted or killed. MP, good morning. Trina, hey girl, hey. Whereas the character Romeus in Brooks' original poem was an ordinary man, the symbolism in Romeo and Juliet suggests that the lead has been transformed into a religious personage. In fact, Romeo represents the false Roman Messiah, Jesus Christ. Juliet calls Romeo a damned saint. Act 3, I'm sorry, no, Act 3, Scene 2, lines 72 through 79, who appears with the name and disguise of a pilgrim so that Juliet quickly views him as, quote, the god of my idolatry, end quote. And that's in Act 2, Scene 2, lines 112 through 115. She also refers to him using the phrase from the Gospels as, quote, a wolf in lamb's clothing, end quote. The following seemingly contradictory descriptions of Romeo by Juliet are part of the representation of Romeo as the false Jesus or root of Christianity. Quote, O serpent heart, hid with a flowering face, did ever dragon keep so fair a cave? Beautiful tyrant, fiend angelical, dove, feathered raven, wolvish ravening lamb, despised substance of divinest show, just opposite to what thou justly seemst, a damned saint, an honorable villain, O nature, what hadst thou to do in hell when thou didst bower the spirit of a fiend in moral paradise of such sweet flesh? Was ever book containing such vile matter so fairly bound? Oh, that deceit should dwell in such a gorgeous palace. End quote. And that's Act 3, Scene 2, lines 73 through 85. Traditional Christian traditional Christian interpretation cannot explain Juliet's contradictory descriptions of Romeo as a saint that could be, quote, damned or as, quote, angelical, but also, quote, a fiend or as a, quote, divine show that concealed something despicable or as most fairly bound book in Elizabethan England. This must certainly be the Bible containing vile matter or a god of idolatry. Let me go back and read the whole. All of that was one sentence. I'm gonna just read it, and I'm not gonna say quote. So it's like when I enunciate words, just know that's the words that's quoted. Okay. Traditional Christian interpretation cannot explain Juliet's contradictory descriptions of Romeo as a saint that could be damned, as angelical, but also a fiend or as a divine show that concealed something despicable or as the most fairly bound book. In Elizabethan England, this must certainly be the Bible containing vile matter or a god of idolatry. But these images are explicable if the playwright is comparing Romeo to the false Jesus, Titus, something that could not be imagined within the classic understanding of the Messiah of Christianity. The playwright knew, however, that once the secret satire in the Gospels was discovered, such a characterization of Jesus would be comprehensible, and the meaning of the seemingly contradictory Jesus metaphors in Romeo and Juliet would then be understood. So, pretty much said, once you understand what was going on in the Gospels and how that was a spoof on Titus's campaign and what was really going on, then you would be able to understand that it's the flip flop in Romeo and Juliet, right? Okay, I'm gonna read that again. Listen. But these images are explicable if the playwright is comparing Romeo to the false Jesus, Titus, something that could not be imagined within the classic understanding of the Messiah of Christianity. The playwright knew, however, that once the secret satire in the Gospels was discovered, such a characterization of Jesus would be comprehensible, and the meaning of the seemingly contradictory Jesus metaphors in Romeo and Juliet would then be understood. Titus tried to fool the Jews by creating a divine show that featured a Jesus who seemingly rose from the dead, but was really the emperor himself. Once it is understood that the playwright is playing off of Titus's deception, then it becomes clear what Romeo is referring to when he appears to come back from the dead and says, I dreamt that I revived and was an emperor. Act 5, Scene 1, lines 6 through 9. The author is typologically linking Romeo to Titus slash Jesus, who seemed to have died but was revived. To complete, to come, what? What's your question, son?
I would like just honestly, what is the end goal to this? Learning about these.
Undoing.
Sorry for any people of a different color than me. What's the point of reading something of European context when it has nothing to do with us?
Shemaiah, son, you have a lot of growing to do. Listen.
I mean, it's like
we are. I'm gonna explain this in the simplest form. We are walking through the process of unscrewing the mind, which is why I take the time to read this, because we can just tell people, oh, burn the New Testament in the fire. That's not gonna be sufficient for some people because of how. Pause. Let me finish. Because of how deeply ingrained lies have been put into them or just rooted deep down within you. Sometimes you just can't tell somebody, hey, this is that, because they're not going to be able to comprehend it. You're going to have to go through unraveling the ball of mess so they can actually see what has been done. So now when they understand the ins and the outs of everything, they can now make a conscious decision to believe what they want to believe, right? And adjust their thinking and their faith and their worship on how they want to, right? That's why.
So you're doing this so your end goal is just to unscrew the minds of ignorant people.
Right. So people can make conscious, clear decisions.
So you ain't doing this for like your benefit more so. Well, you're doing it in your benefit, but not in your benefit at the same time. You're doing it in other benefits.
What do you mean I'm not doing it for my benefit?
More so like you're not doing this to obtain knowledge yourself. You're doing this to help others attain knowledge.
Well, it's a combination of both, son. I'm sharing it because of the knowledge I have obtained and realized we have all been mind screwed, right? And as to your comment about the European gentleman who actually wrote it, who else of any other nationality has done? I'm not saying that there's not one, but whose work is published with all the references that we can go back and check and verify, right? Because it's not just his work; it's a compilation of many people's work and their study throughout the years. He was just the only one so far that I've come across that's really credible, that has been able to take all of his study and other credible studies and put them together in a single bounded work and made 2 volumes of it. Yeah, they're over 400 pages, but I think it's worth the read for those who really want to know truth. That's why. See, my son, he's young, is like just Jake. Jake says sounds like he's a very blunt and direct person. He really is. Y'all should see him off screen. Look, hold on.
Sorry, I get it from I don't know where I get it from.
Right. Well, I like that. My aunt said, well, Aunt Gay said, it would be like someone trying to tell you that Pam is not your mom who you've known as your whole life. It's like growing up, growing up, yeah. So like us growing up in the church, Jesus is God, right? It's like it's like trying to tell somebody that no, you know, when that's what they've grown up, that's what's been ingrained into them, right? And you can kind of use that, you can kind of really use that same metaphor. I think it would kind of be better suited, say if you were adopted from birth, but all your life you've known me as mom. We've never told you that you were adopted, somebody else gave birth to you, because we've always treated you like I gave birth to you myself, right? So it's not until you become older. And a lot of people who are adopted, they don't really find out that information until they get older anyway, right? It doesn't. Let's see, because there's a, and I can even see in that, knowing some people who've gone through that process, because they come to a certain age and they wonder why. Well, why have you hid this information from me all these years? Well, and their response is, well, we wanted to wait till you were older so you could really understand, because you wouldn't have understood it earlier. And then they go through this process of being mad, right? You're not my real parents. All this time I've been thinking you were my parents and you were not, which is the same kind of process we went through as we
So you talking about that Jamal situation?
No, I'm not talking about Jamal. You talking about the guy Jamal.
Yeah,
No,
the
I'm not
guy
referring to him at all. I said
no,
stop listening to
not
him.
Rashad Jamal. You remember Jamal, the kid that I tried to sway and his mom could not
Oh,
get swayed?
exactly. Perfect example, Jeremiah, recalling. Okay, so
I honestly think it's still kind of stupid because like all the and then your prophecies didn't come true. I mean, make it make sense, bro.
okay, so Jeremiah, like I said, Jeremiah's still growing. He has a lot of growing to do. He's still kind of going through this process of putting everything together. But it's like, but he is like Jake said, he's a real direct, blunt person. It's like, okay, what's the end? Boom, that's it. Forget all the explanation in the middle. This is what it's supposed to be. Why are you even wasting your time over here now since you told me, because to him it's like, okay, so why are you still reading and doing this? I was like, Jeremiah,
See,
I wish I could just be as blunt. And some things I can be really blunt, but that's sometimes you can't do that with a lot of people, because people are going to ask questions. Okay, well, why? They don't understand and what they've grown up believing, and it seems to outweigh the truth you're telling them. So truth sometimes takes a little bit of time to sink down and for you to understand, because you have to understand why it's the truth. You have to take time yourself and begin to look at things and study things before you yourself will identify that as truth. A lot of people don't recognize truth because they can't identify it, simply because they identify something else as truth, right? And what they believe. Belief is simply a thought that you have that you think is the truth. So but when you get new information, and that's not always the case, we take it as that sometimes, but sometimes things that we believe, although at one point we think is the truth, as we get older we find out, oh, we had half information, or we didn't realize, we didn't know that, right? And now your belief is being challenged, and you have to adjust it according to the new information. You got to clarify this new information. Is this sound good information, right? And if you find that it is, then now it's your choice to adjust your belief and add more truth to it, so your outcome on whatever it is more sound and more clear. Or you can choose to throw that truth in the garbage and continue believing what you want to believe, right? So that's why I take the time every morning, is kind of walking through some of this stuff, because some people need help identifying truth. Not that I have all the truth, and sometimes I make a mistake, but once we realize, oh, guys, I screwed up, play my last. Remember that? I said, that was wrong. That was wrong, right? We walking together, and it's better walking on this journey with people who have the same mindset and looking for truth as well, because you can share the piece of the puzzle that you have. I may have another piece of the puzzle, but the point is that we're working together for the same goal, uncovering truth, because nobody wants to live a fictitious life, you know? Okay. So
Sorry, distracting us from a little.
it's not a distraction,
Bible study.
son. Don't say a little Bible study. Don't do that. Okay, let's go back up here. Let me see. I'll just go back up here. But these images are explicable if the playwright is comparing Romeo to the false Jesus, Titus, something that could not be imagined within the classic understanding of the Messiah of Christianity. The playwright knew, however, that once the secret satire in the Gospels was discovered, such a characterization of Jesus would be comprehensible, and the meaning of the seemingly contradictory Jesus metaphors in Romeo and Juliet would then be understood. Titus tried to fool the Jews by creating a divine show that featured a Jesus who seemingly rose from the dead, but was really the emperor himself. Once it is understood that the playwright is playing off of Titus's deception, then it becomes clear what Romeo is referring to when he appears to come back from the dead and says, I dreamt that I revived and was an emperor. Act 5, Scene 1, lines 6 through 9. The author is typologically linking Romeo to Titus slash Jesus, who seemed to have died but was revived. To completely clarify Romeo's, whose name plays on this theme, linkages to the Caesars, he is described as the heir of Tiberio, obviously indicating Tiberius. Quote, Nurse, he is the son and heir of old Tiberio, end quote, Act 1, Scene 5, line 129. The name of Romeo's servant, Balthazar, was the name ascribed in the Middle Ages to one of the three wise men who brought gifts to the newborn Messiah in the Gospels, thus contributing to the theme connecting Romeo with Jesus. It was also the name given to the prophet Daniel by Gentiles. This helps with the understanding of the character's hidden Jewish identity and begins to establish the play's relationship to the prophecies of Daniel. Juliet's birthday is also part of the play's broad reversal of the gospel satirical system. Juliet was born on July 31st, Lammas Eve, the day before Lammas Tide, the Christian feast day that is the most similar to Passover. It was held every August 1st, and like Passover, was a feast that featured the eating of consecrated bread. The term lammas derives from the words loaf and mass and refers to the consecration of the bread made from first fruits of the harvest. Romeo and Juliet builds towards this dramatic cannibalistic conclusion during the Lammastide season as a Jewish parody of the Gospels, building to their cannibalistic conclusion at Passover. The following passage reverses the usage of Daniel's prophecies in the New Testament. In Romeo and Juliet, Daniel's prophecies envisioned the Gentiles' destruction at the play's end rather than the Jews. Notice in the passage that Juliet's birthday is mentioned 3 times. The highlighting by repetition of concepts, particularly important to the satirical level, was a technique the author borrowed from the Gospels. For example, the key word soterion, I'm sorry, yeah, Soderion is repeated thrice in the description of Jesus' tomb. The numbers 14 and 11, which are associated with Daniel's prophecies, are also repeated, and that the nurse's deceased husband makes a prophecy regarding Juliet that she would fall backwards when she has more wit, i.e., when she has reached her 14th birthday. Quote, and this is the nurse and Lady Capulet going back and forth. Nurse, Faith, I can tell her age unto an hour. Lady Capulet, she's not 14. Nurse, I'll lay 14 of my teeth, and yet to my teeth it be spoken, I have but 4. She is not 14. How long now is it to Lammas tide? Lady Capulet, a fortnight and odd days. Nurse, even or odd, even or odd, of all days in the year, come Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14. Susan and she, God rest all Christian souls, were of an age. Well, Susan is with God. She was too good for me, but as I said, on Lammas Eve at night shall she be 14. That shall she marry. I remember it well. 'Tis since the earthquake now 11 years, and she was weaned. I never shall forget it. Of all the days of the year, upon that day, for I had then laid wormwood to my dug, sitting in the sun under the dove house wall. My lord and you were then at Mantua. Nay, I do bear a brain, but as I said, when it did taste the wormwood on the nipple of my dug and felt it bitter, pretty fool, to see it tetchy and fall out with the dug. I don't know what in the world she talking about. She talking about nursing her baby of my dug and felt it bitter, pretty fool, to see it tetchy and fall out with the dug. Shake quoth the dove house, 'twas no need, I trow, to bid me trudge. And since that time it is 11 years. For then she could stand alone, nay, by the rood, she could even have run and waddled all about. For even the day before she broke her brow, and then my husband, God be with his soul, was was a merry man, took up the child, yea, quoth he, dost thou fall upon thy face? Thou wilt fall backward when thou hast more wit, wilt thou not, Jewel? And by my holidane, the pretty wretch left crying and said, to see now how a jest shall come about, I warrant, and I should live 1,000 years. I never should forget it. Would thou not, Jewel? Quoth he, and pretty fool, it stinted and said, Y'all can interpret this. Let a sister know. But no, she was talking about when Juliet was a baby and she remembered just like it was yesterday because different things. She called the pregnancy giving of the birth the earthquake, right? Okay, I get it. That's Act 1, Scene 3, lines 11 through 48. Josephus falsified the prophecies of Daniel to show holy poly that the Romans' destruction of the Jews had been ordained by God. The above passage clearly reverses this and is a spoof of the Gospels and wars of the Jews, improbable linkage of Daniel's prophecies and the Jewish feast day of Passover. The spoof is created by linking the time spans of 14 and 11 years to a prophecy regarding the Christian holy day of Lammastide. In the Bible, Daniel's prophecies were presented in time spans of weeks, which are periods of 7 years. The fact that Juliet will be exactly 14 years old on the upcoming feast of Lammastide indicates that this will be the closing of the second week, the second period of 7 years. Oh, my mouth is dry. Okay. Let me see, what we at? 53 minutes? Oh, we ain't gonna finish this today. We'll probably finish it tomorrow. Yeah, we'll definitely finish it tomorrow. Okay, but we'll pause. Pause right there. Okay. To reverse, oh no, nope. Okay. The authors of the Gospels and Wars of the Jews brazenly falsified history to create the impression that Daniel's prophecy, echoed by Jesus, concerning the abomination of desolation had come to pass exactly as the prophets had predicted 3.5 years from the beginning of the war between the Romans and the Jews. Josephus continued this fiction by recording that the war then ended precisely 3.5 years later with the self-destruction by the last of the Jewish rebels at Masada. To reverse the falsification of Daniel's prophecies, the nurse in the above passage indicates that at the midpoint of the previous week, in other words, 11 years ago, a disaster had occurred, the earthquake that led to Juliet's breaking her brow. On that portentous day, the nurse's deceased husband had made a prediction concerning Juliet that she would fall backwards, indicating she would die once she has some wits. As this comes to pass at the play's end, this fulfilled prophecy satirically reverses the fictitious Daniel prophecies described by Josephus and the Gospels, so that in Romeo and Juliet, Daniel is envisioning the destruction of the Gentiles, not the Jews. The dove house was shaken as a spoof of the I'm sorry. The dove house was shaken as a spoof of the use of doves in the Gospels to designate the Messiah, as in Matthew chapter 3, verse 16. The passage's absurd nature is deliberate. The parodies, the ludicrous application of the prophecies of Daniel in the Gospels and wars of the Jews and those foolish enough to believe them. Sheesh. Scholars have previously noticed Romeo and Juliet's numerous citations of New Testament passages related to the Apostle Peter, and also the speeches of the Peter, who is a servant to the Capulets. Hey, guys. I mean, not you weren't talking, but you're loud. Joshua, Josiah, and Isaiah. Why are they fighting? Jeremiah, why are they fighting? Why are they fighting?
Probably over that game.
Hey.
Not even over the game. Probably just because like somebody did something for no reason.
Y'all, boy, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna get all three of y'all. Don't cut that game on.
You know what you haven't picked up? You haven't picked up Thor's hammer in a while.
No, I did yesterday because I punched Josh right in his arm. Look, your daddy upstairs. They start fighting again. Just go get your daddy. I'm not. Boys, all that testosterone. Did y'all hear it? Could y'all hear the rumbling? That's why I was like, why they fight? I could hear them. Bodies tossing against my couch. They don't care. They don't care. Yes. Yes, I talked to Josh already. Yeah, Josh know better than to say those curse words. He did. Well, if you hear him say it again, you come let me know. Okay. Scholars have previously noticed Romeo and Juliet's numerous citations of New Testament passages related to the Apostle Peter, and also the speeches of the Peter, who is a servant to the Capulets. These allusions begin with a quote from 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, suggesting that women are weaker vessels. Act 1, Scene 1, line 15. Next is a passage in which Peter rashly draws his sword. Act 2, Scene 4, lines 154 through line 157. Bringing to mind the event in the Garden of Gethsemane where Peter drew his sword to cut off a priest's servant's ear, which is found in John chapter 18, verse 10. Mr. Goodwill tells the men to put away their swords since they know not what you do. Act 1, Scene 1, line 65. Blending Jesus' instruction to Peter to put his sword away, John chapter 18, verse 11, with his words from the cross, forgive them, for they know not what they do, Luke 23 and 34. Finally, the wedding of Paris and Juliet was to be celebrated at St. Peter's Church. In my view, these St. Peter references are included in the play simply to help the reader understand that it is a reworking of Gospel's story concerning the Passover and Christ's Passion, in which Peter played a central role. I'm gonna just read the rest of this and then we'll pause right here before it go back and forth between Peter and the musician. Knowing that the character Peter is related to the apostle Peter explains the mysterious and irreverent exchange between Peter and a group of musicians. Act 4, Scene 5, line 100 through 140. Following Juliet's feigned death, Peter asked the musicians to play some merry dump, an oxymoron meaning a song that is both merry and sad. The musicians asked what reward they would be given. Peter refuses to give them money and offers them a minstrel or vagabond instead. But the musicians say that they only play for silver. The passage is notable in that Emilia Bassano came from a family of Jewish musicians, recorders, who would have also known the truth of the gospel satire and may represent actual witticisms exchanged between Emilia and her musician cousins and uncles while they played at Christian events. Their comedy is black. Excuse me. The Dump, a sad song, is now merry because the death of a Gentile it commemorates is a merry event to this particular group of recorders. They are paid in silver because the scene takes place just before the Last Supper, and that was the currency paid to Judas at the same point in the version of the story given to the Gospels. Given in the Gospels. Peter says, on my faith, that he would give the musicians the gleek, meaning jest or riddle, in exchange for their playing. A musician responds saying, that if Peter gives them the solution, that they will give him the serving creature. In other words, the joke is that the Christ was the serving creature, that is, he was cannibalized. Being crypto Jews, the recorders have false names. All Jews had to adopt Christian names in England during the period. They decide to avoid dinner, unlike the unknowing Gentiles who are about to participate in an unsavory feast. Note that the song Peter describes relates to the end of the play, and that the destruction of the Gentile nobility is the red dress for their execution of the Jews' Messiah. Thank you, baby. I appreciate that. All right, beautiful people. And this is where we will pause at today. And what I'll do before I start reading this back and forth conversation between Peter and the musicians, I'll reread this little paragraph that I just read. So let me make myself a note here. All right, y'all. So we'll finish this up tomorrow. What's wrong with you, son? Let me start. 187 is what we started. 196. All right, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed the reading. I hope y'all are keeping up with it. If you kind of lost a little bit as to where we're at in Romeo and Juliet, go watch it. If you have Amazon Prime, there is the one with Leonardo DiCaprio. You have to pay for still. I didn't pay for that one, but I did list it if you want to pay for it and watch it. Some of you may have already downloaded and purchased it already, but there's another one. It's also a more modern version, and the guy that plays Romeo actually looks almost just like Leonardo DiCaprio. That is one of the free ones. That's the one that I rewatched last night. It's really good and it's really easy to understand, even with their the way that they spoke back then. But they are it's clear to hear and understand, and I think it's probably one of the easiest ones to keep up with and to understand what's going on from beginning to end. So if you want to watch the one with Leonardo DiCaprio, fine, go ahead. But if you don't have the money to pay for it, you want to see the free version, but you do have, if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it. It's up there for free. I mean, it's not really free because if you pay for Amazon Prime, you paid for it, but it's included in the Prime membership, so to speak. But also,
Yeah, we know y'all got.
I did list one that you can also watch on YouTube for free as well. And I'll repost them all and pin them in the comment section today on YouTube for those that can't find it, but it's in the description box on every video since we've been reading this. All right, y'all. So that's it. Let's go ahead and end this. We gotta get about our day here, y'all. It is Wednesday. Did you take the trash out? Both recycle and trash. Thank you. It is Wednesday, November the 10th, 2021, day 299 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 967. We read Psalms 88, 88, 89, and 90, and we read the first half of chapter. Why you looking like that? First half of chapter, what was it, chapter 6? Chapter 6, Romeo and Juliet, page 187 to 196. All right, too. Yeah, I'm sorry, chapter 7. Chapter 7.
That I didn't change.
Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the blessing.
You're looking like a little Grinch.
No, I don't. I look like Santa.
Okay, no, you don't look like Santa.
Ain't no Santa is make believe, don't you? You look like Princess.
I look like Mommy.
You do. You look like your grandmama.
Oh, you do look like your grandma.
Daddy, I look like you,
Okay.
him, you, and Mommy, and boys.
Yeah, you are. I mean, it just depends on what time of the day it is. You look like
family. You know that. Right?
you look like some of everybody. Okay, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27.
No.
Remember, the Nazarite vow is found in the first 21 verses of
Too late.
Numbers chapter 6.
No.
And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them,
It ain't who talk first.
Yahuwah will kneel before us presenting gifts and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them.
No, I
All
didn't do that. Who name?
Yeah, put Yahuwah's name upon his people. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. See y'all back here bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Go ahead and end it, Pootie.
Get this thing jumping.
No, girl, you want to end this
It's a whole
first?
nother month. It's
End
a
this
whole
one.
nother month.
A whole nother month.
Ain't nothing, ain't nothing